I think you got two options here. Either a college coach who has run their own program and shown they can do it successfully, or you have to like throw everything at a Bill Cowher, someone like that who has the gravitas of being a Super Bowl winning coach. Granted, hasn't been in the job for a long time, I realize that, but somebody who does come in with Hall of Fame credentials doesn't feel like a retread. Like, that to me is where I'd be looking for the Jets, just because, Moose, on the outside, like where we are, we're not sitting in on these interviews, it's so hard to tell if these coordinators have what it takes to make that leap.
Well, you got to read the man, you got to read the personality of the individual, right? That's going to be on Joe Douglas. I mean, the alarming aspect when we're having the conversation yesterday with Ian Rappaport saying that this is going to be an ownership decision. See, that's wrong. Whether it be Chris Johnson or Woody Johnson, see the error of their ways. They do have to lean on Joe Douglas to make the call and the suggestion for head coach. I get it's an ownership hire, but it's got to be a head coaching search that's not led by some kind of law firm or some a vetting firm. It's got to be led by Joe Douglas, who has an idea of what he's doing. He understands football. He knows college football players. He's got to lead the way for this Jet organization. So that's the way I look at it, Maggie. I don't necessarily. I don't want to pigeonhole the Jet job and say it's got to be somebody that has head coaching experience, because I do think then you can close yourself off to some really good candidates. I think you got to read the individual.
I get that, but we're not in there to read that individual, and the Johnsons have not shown you.
But that is on Joe Douglas. Listen, I don't want Bill Cowher. He has been in the NFL for 15 years.
I know, but here's the thing about that.
That does nothing for me. I don't want to go down that path.
Okay,
I don't want to go down a guy that has not coached in the NFL since the early 2000s. I'll pass on that. That to me, I need, if I'm Joe Douglas, I'm bringing in a guy. Joe Judge came in here with no head coaching experience, was about to get the college job. Impressed John Mara to the point, said it was the most impressive head coaching interview that he's ever been a part of. And are you now looking at Joe Judge and saying, well, he didn't have the no head coaching experience at all, and year number one, he's done a really, really good job?
Listen, I'm not saying the coordinators can't be successful. Of course they can. But first of all, you and I and everyone listening to this, unless the front office for the Jets happens to have the fan on right now, we are not privy to those interviews. So you're asking the fan base and everyone on the outside to take a massive leap of faith with you that you can recognize good leadership.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't think that the Johnsons have earned that respect and credit from the Jet fan.
It's got to be Joe Douglas.
But that's not how it is right now, Moose. Yes, it should be that way, but if we're going to operate under the current structure that the Jets have, that's just not how it's going to be. So if the Johnsons are the ones who are going to be leading this and making this decision, I don't have a lot of faith, if I'm a Jets fan, that the Johnsons are the ones who can identify this is the leader that we need in this moment. Because where's the proof? Well, you're on your third head coach in 2015. The other thing about the Joe Judge example, it's a little not exactly apples to apples here, because this is the second hire for Gettleman. And this current, Gettleman now in conjunction with Mara and Tisch. Shermer was the first screw up. This is the second one. So yeah, you have to get this right if you're the Jets, because Adam Gase is the screw up, and you got to make sure you get this one right. If the Giants had whiffed again, and Joe Judge, if this first season felt like the first season after Shermer, where it was just like, oh my goodness, what's going on? I think they made a mistake. The Giants would be underwater. Like, this is so important, because the Gase screw up and how that didn't work puts so much more pressure on this for the Jets. So much more pressure.
Listen, if it's all on Chris Johnson and or Woody Johnson to find the guy, yeah, I would. Even with the rule example, I would be concerned. I think there needs to be, if Joe Douglas is in the position that he is in, and we've had the conversations about the power that Joe Douglas has down in Florham Park, he's going to be very influential. And who gets interviewed, who doesn't get interviewed, who is on his list. Because if you're Chris Johnson, Woody Johnson, you're not leaning on Joe Douglas, well, then the Jets are going to make the bad hire. Regardless of experience, no experience, because I'm leaning on the football guy, and Chris Johnson and Woody Johnson are not football guys.
Yes, this is why I'd be concerned if I'm a Jets fan.
But I think they're going to lean on Douglas. That's my point. My point being is I think Joe Douglas is going to be very influential in finding the next Jet head coach.
Okay, so if he is, and say they do decide to go with someone like a Wink Martindale, and who's the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, and there is a connection there, then maybe you feel better even with all of us not really knowing Wink Martindale in terms of him being a front-facing, media-focused person, even though he did interview with the Giants for the Giants job last year, but we won't know that until he's literally has the job. That's you're asking the fan base for a wing and a prayer there, because we just don't know. We never know with teams. This is like Eric Bieniemy with the Kansas City Chiefs. He could be incredibly influential in how Patrick Mahomes is being used and his development, all of that stuff. We just don't know. We don't know if Andy Reid gets all the credit, and it's maybe should be on more of his assistant coaches. You just don't know until they're there. And it's a big wing and a prayer. And if I'm a Jets fan, I don't have a lot of faith that the Johnsons are the right people to identify leadership, because I haven't seen them do that in the last 2 hiring cycles, right? And this, to me, is a concern. This is a massive crossroads for them. So for me, because it's such a big rebuild, as the outsider, like we weren't there for the Joe Judge interview with the Giants, we had to take their word for it that they saw leadership skills with him, and it's shown out that he is a culture builder. I would want someone who's at least been in that top job. This is just such a big undertaking. No way to sugarcoat that.
I would hope that Chris Johnson, Woody Johnson would have the come to Jesus moment and start to change that. If you're going on the idea that Joe Douglas has power down in Florham Park, I believe he's going to be influential, and I don't necessarily need to bring in a guy that has got head coaching experience in the NFL. Now, you go to the college ranks, you're not hiring a college assistant, so whether it be Campbell at Iowa State, or if you go to another Shaw out there in Stanford, everyone's been chasing David Shaw for years, running that Stanford program. Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern, those guys have coaching and head coaching experience, but if you figure out that there is an assistant, say it is Wink Martindale with Baltimore, that is the guy, that is the culture changer, that does have the personality, needs the opportunity, kicking on the door, I don't really have an issue with that. It just got to be a scenario where I need Joe Douglas to play a major role in this decision-making process. You need to bring in a guy that's got the personality to be a culture changer within this organization, set a tone, and tell me exactly what the Jets are going to be under his guidance. What are they? What is going to symbolize Jet football? Because Joe Judge with the Giants is starting to symbolize what Giant football is going to be. They're not all the way there. They have a lack of talent in certain spots. We can get on Dave Gettleman and call out whether or not he should have a future as general manager. For Joe Douglas and the Jets, whoever their next head coach is, has got to be the implement of change on so many different levels within that locker room on this team, start to define what Jet football is going to mean from this point moving forward at the date of that hire.